Hello, everyone. Greetings, 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 greetings. Um, Welcome to Secretary of Shade with DDM. Uh, Today, I'm earning my super chats today. Um, we have, you know, one big thing to discuss, and it's this big, beautiful bill um, that Trump is doing. And this is one of those sequences, those meetings where I really had to do my homework and really, how can I say this? Really, really dig in more than I typically do. Um, in recent times, but I dissected this bill. And this bill is a Trojan horse in some ways. A lot of the things in this bill, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be honest with you. For some of you, it's going to be very appealing. You're going to think, okay, this is great. I'm not even going to lie to you. When I looked through the bill, I was like, oh, all right then. Okay. But when you look at the human aspects of it, when you look at the long term aspects of this bill, it's a lot more than meets the eye. First, I want to say hello to everybody. Um, who's in the chat. Good evening. I see you guys. Everybody's here. So we're just going to get into it, right? Now, this big, beautiful bill, and it's real when I had to pull out paperwork and charts and things. Now, this big beautiful bill covers a lot. It covers everything from no tax on silencers for guns. So the poop poop gunshot, there's a tax on a silencer. No more taxes on a silencer because in America we want people to die quietly without disturbing our dinner. Okay? Shoot Janice over there. I don't want to hear that in my house. Call me when you're ready for us to pick up the body. Okay? Medicaid, grandma, you're going to have to work now to get that Medicaid. I don't care if you're disabled. I don't care if you have a hard time getting around. You're going to have to work. Okay? We need some hours. Okay? SNAP benefits. Now, I ain't going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. When I read what they trying to switch up in the food stamps and snaps, I was like, look, I'm not mad. Okay? That's why I said there's some things in this bill that are going to appeal to you. I want to say that up front. But also there are some things in this bill that when we look at the paper trail, you're going to gag. Okay? Now, so, first things first with this bill, and this is just an overview. I've researched the BBC, Vox, all of those people who just report straight up news. So just a few things here. Now, no tax on Social Security, okay? The House bill fell short on delivering that promise, but it did temporarily increase the standard deduction of up to $4,000 for individuals 65 and over. That deduction would be in place from 2025 to 2028. So, niece, you are still getting taxed on your Social Security. However, you get a little bit of a more deduction when you go to file your taxes on the Social Security that you've been paying on since you were 16. Okay? It's not going to be no taxes. You just get a little tax break, which when you do the math, is probably not going to do much for you anyway. But there you go. Now, more Medicaid requirements. To help finance tax cuts elsewhere, Republicans have added additional restrictions and requirements for Medicaid. the health care program relied upon by millions of elderly, disabled, and low-income Americans. Changes to Medicaid, one of the biggest components of federal spending, was a major source of strife. One of the changes are new work requirements for childless adults without disabilities. To qualify for Medicaid, according to this bill, you would be required to work at least 80 hours per month beginning December 2026. Now, here's the thing with that. Suppose you are, going through any situations, right? Let's say you have they say disability. Their mental disabilities, like what qualifies as that? Now, if you just at home collecting Medicaid for whatever reason and you just getting it, you able to work, you don't have any children, there's no mental health issues going on, then I get you, okay? But this says childless adults without disabilities. So if you just old and your body creak a little bit and your knees is jacked up, grandma, you gonna have to go check receipts at Walmart or something for at least 80 hours a month. That's 20 hours a week. You're gonna have to work part-time to at least get your Medicaid. Okay? I'm not wholeheartedly mad at that. But I think where that's gonna get sticky is you're gonna see, and I almost can guarantee this, you're gonna see a rise in people saying, well, my knee had bent a little bit, so I can't really work. It's just gonna get busy. It's gonna get messy. Okay? Another thing in this bill, because I got a whole list. Let me pull out my paper, okay? Oh, this was a big one. No tax on overtime or tips, okay? Now, here's the thing with that. No tax on overtime and tips. That only goes into effect until I believe 2028. So this is not a long-standing kind of a situation. Okay? This is something that it's cute. But here's the thing. Let's think about that, because that's low-hanging fruit, right? No tax on tips and overtime. Let's look at the tip piece. For those of you who have worked in restaurants, if the customer's paying cash, how are they tracking the taxes, niece, anyway? Let's be smart here. They're not giving you anything for that in this bill. The only thing that they can really account for is those credit card tips. And newsflash, it's some restaurants that are cash only. It's some restaurants that may say tips are only paid in cash. How are they going to track that? You can't. What you gonna say? Yeah, Yolanda, because you made $200 in tips this week and you owe us $20. Like, that don't even make sense. So what are you really getting out of? Like, how is that an incentive for you? How is that an incentive? It doesn't make sense. Okay? That's the bottom line. Now, another thing, SNAP benefits. Okay? Let's look at the food stamps, because the girls, I got all these papers, y'all, because I've been researching all day. Food stamps. House Republicans would reduce spending on food aid by about $267 billion over 10 years. Now, this is long-standing. Your tax on tips? Hell no. You got until 2028. Food stamps, bitch? Oh, when I'm long gone, you ain't getting them stamps, bitch. States would shoulder 5% of benefit costs beginning in fiscal 2028 and 75% of the administrative costs of providing food stamps. Currently, states pay none of the benefit and half of the administration costs. Republicans are also expanding the work requirements to receive food aid. Under current law, able-bodied adults without dependents must fulfill work requirements until they are 54, and that would change under the bill to age 64. Also, and this is where it's going to sound sweet to you right here. You going to be like, bitch, I'm not even mad. Because when I read it, I was like, oh, all right, now. Also, some parents are currently exempt from work requirements until their children are 18. That would change. So only those caring for a dependent child under the age of 7 are exempt. Now, niece, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. Because there are a lot of people, I'm not even gonna say a lot, but there are people who we know of all races who get food stamps, medical assistance. They doing better than you and me put together. Living off the system. Ain't gotta work, they get their assistance. This bill, once that child hits 7, niece, your ass better report to the office. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. It's some fucked up shit in this bill, but that ain't one of them. Okay? I'm not mad at that. Okay? One thing I will say is that Democrats and progressives are right, and when you look at this bill, it is an attack on middle to lower income people. That's just the bottom line and flat out. Okay? Now, another thing. We talked about the no tax on gun silencers. Okay? This package would eliminate a $200 tax on gun silencers that has existed since Congress passed the National Firearms Act in 1934. So 91 years of precedence will be erased by this bill. Okay? Republicans are also looking to prohibit Medicaid funds from going to Planned Parenthood, which provides abortion care. Democrats say defunding the organization will make it harder for millions of patients to get cancer screenings, pap tests, and birth control. And see, that's the thing with Medicaid, with Planned Parenthood, right? Is Planned Parenthood as a brand, here's where there's an area of opportunity for them. As a brand, Planned Parenthood, your brand is we kill babies. That's your brand. I know that sounds harsh, but we gotta keep it, we gotta call a thing a thing. We kill unborn babies. That's what they're gonna say. That's your brand. We give out condoms and contraceptives. That's your brand. Where Planned Parenthood failed, where there's an area of opportunity for them, is Planned Parenthood. When Roe versus Wade got reversed, bitch, y'all should have did an image overhaul. Y'all should have brought to the public attention that you're doing cancer screenings, prenatal care, pap smears, things like that. Whatever it is that you offer outside of that, there should have been a campaign for that. The world is PR. It's all PR. And if you can make people believe that it's a thing, they will. Just like we believe, well, I didn't believe, but there are a lot of people who believe that trans people were getting ready to take over the world like the X-Men. Magneto was getting ready to come in a 30-inch lace front and steal all of your children and turn them trans. And trans people are only 1%, less than 1% of the population. But because it was branded a certain way, the public ran with it. So Planned Parenthood, You should have went ahead and did that. Shout out to Reality Sisters for the super chat. I appreciate you. Okay. Now, another thing. Here's what I really want to get to, because we know all of the big shit, right? But we've all been thinking about, why are these people voting for him? Why are they voting for Trump? Baby, we're getting ready to go to the classroom, okay? And we're going to talk about taxes. See, while we are fighting the culture war, they're fighting the fiscal one, okay? All of this culture shit, well, that is a thing for them. That's a big deal. But you notice how Trump is pardoning all of these people, mostly, that got locked up for tax evasion, fraud, bank fraud, all of that, robbery. That's because he sympathizes with them. Ted, the Chrisleys. We watched their show on USA, bitch. We was here for the Chrisleys because we had their closeted gay father and the bed wife and the children, and they was living fab down south. They got locked up for fraud, robbery, tax evasion, whatever you want to call it. Trump pardoned them today. That's hot off the press. He pardoned that sheriff, I think it was in West Virginia. Robbery, took $70,000 for key appointments and shit and contracts. Pardon, full pardon. I'm gonna say to my black people, please don't get upset, because I hate this. I don't even want to speak this, but I got to keep it real. Don't be mad if you see Derek Chauvin across your screen. We got to be smart, because that's going to be done to aggravate us and immobilize us and go out on these streets and show our asses, and then that'll give them a reason for martial law, and then we in a whole nother can of worms. But let's talk about taxes. So, Donald Trump and the Republican Party has been working on taxes since his first term. So let's rewind here. Donald Trump was elected in 2016. In 2017, yes, bitch, I got notes. The Tax Cuts and Job Act was signed into law. What happened was, it lowered individual income tax rates, including the top marginal rate, from 39.6% to 37%. It increased the standard deduction, making it more beneficial for many taxpayers. Sounds great, right? The child tax credit was increased and made partially refundable, providing more financial support. Now, business tax changes because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act 2017. This was his first year in. Soon as he got there, it reduced corporate tax rate. Listen to this number. From 35% to 21%. 35% to 21%. Now, before this tax rate change, this tax act, there was what was called an alternative minimum tax. And that still exists. But that alternative minimum tax had guardrails so that these big corporations could pay their fair share. So let's go to the classroom. Now, everybody can see my screen. We're going into class. Oh, I'm fancy today, y'all. Before 2017, okay, the alternative minimum tax, if you made $54,300 or less, you got taxed roughly between 10 to 12%. Okay? After that 10 to 12%, Once you made over $54,300 a year, you got pushed into a 26% tax bracket. Okay? This was before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If you were married, if you and your spouse combined made $84,500 or less, you were in that 10 to 12%. Anything over that, you were in the 26% tax bracket. Now, for an individual person, you like, hell yeah. But I'm doing this to show you why so many people ignored the crimes against humanity that are happening right now, and they voted with their pocketbooks. You got to follow the money, okay? Now, after that 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was introduced, the exemption went up to $81,300. So if you made $81,300 or less, you were still in that 10 to 12% tax bracket. Anything past that moved you up to the 26%. Now, if you were married, that deduction was increased from $84,500 to $126,500. So you're still in the 10 to 12% tax bracket. Anything past that, you're at 26%. If you make $220,000, that puts you in the 28% tax bracket if you're a spouse or a joint, either one. And then you're totally out of that tax bracket at $578,000 or $1.15 million, roughly, if you're joint. Okay? Now, if you are a person that's making money, this works for you. And this is included in this new act. So if you're poor, number one, let's be real here. I'm going to be honest with you. You're still going to get that 10% tax anyway. So it doesn't really affect you. And you're saying, okay, DDM, this looks like a good thing, right? Well, here's the thing. Let me show you what they used to pay. So, before this cap, right? Let's look at this tax, and this is directly from the IRS. This ain't nothing I made up. This is on the IRS website, niece. If you make $11,600, you're only getting 10% taxed. Okay? And somebody saying black people are poor. Not all of them, because we're going to get to that too. While we saying black people are poor, guess what happened in the last 30 years? Shows like A Different World push black kids to go to college. We have more black millionaires than ever now. We have more black people making over $50,000. Black people ain't as poor as we used to be. Not saying we up there, but it's not the same song and dance as it was in the 80s and 90s. So this is to show you why you had some black Trump supporters. Those same educated people that went to college, whether they was black or white, they looked at the damn numbers. And they said, yeah, I know my rights might get violated, but I'll cry in the comfort of a rich house. I'm telling you good shit. You look at this, 12%. If you make $11,600 more than that, you in the 12%. $47,000, you in the 32%. You in the 22%. $100,000, you in 24%. So here's the thing: prior to this cut that happened, people who made more money paid more. So that means businesses, these rich people that got all this money, they was paying more. But look at this rate. If you made $609,000 or more, okay, If you made $609,000 or more, you are in the 37% tax bracket, which means that you're paying almost 40% of your income to the government. Now, let's think about that. I don't give a fuck how bad things are because people follow the money. If I'm getting taxed 37%, almost 40%, what you think I'm going to do? Why you think you're seeing Snoop Dogg and Kanye and Rick Ross and all of these people supporting Trump? They may not like what he do from a culture perspective, but they're following the goddamn money. This is why some of these people went that way. Because he's rewriting the tax code. And this shit will take effect and be in effect for a while because it's set to expire. When? In 2025. This is why the bill is getting pushed in the middle of the night in the Congress. This is why. Food stamps, all that other shit, that's nice. They want that too. But they want to protect assets. It's bigger. Guys, God, you've got it. Oh. We got to think about that. Okay? Now, let's think about how this is taxed when you get it. So here's an example. So the way that the taxes work, if you got that alternative minimum tax amount, right? Which they just increased which they increased back in 2017 with this tax cuts and job act, right? Then at that point, if up to $11,600, they'll tax $11,600 of that at 10%. Anything past that, they'll up until $47,150, they'll tax at 12%. Anything past that, you enter that new tax bracket. So anything from 47 on up to 58 will get taxed at 22%, and so on and so forth. This is how it works. And I'm not saying I'm a professional, because I'm not. I'm just like you. I'm doing my research. And when I sat down and did the goddamn math, I'm like, all right, I get it. I get it. Now, here's another thing. All of this is political. All of it. It's financial, but it's also political. There's also a thing called the SALT tax. That's the state and local taxes, local property taxes. So for 41 states in the United States and the District of Columbia, people pay state taxes. There are 9 states that do not pay state taxes, right? Okay. So those 9 states, let me get out my sheet here. So the 9 states that do not pay state taxes, and listen to this list, bitch, and then let's think about where people are moving, all the rich people going. Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. All of which, for the most part, are ruby red states, bitch. Everybody else pays state and local taxes. Now, let's think about the states that pay the highest in state taxes. The citizens in these states pay the highest in state taxes. Okay? New York, number 1. California, number 2. Washington, D.C., number 3. My state, Maryland, number 4. Oregon, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Delaware, and Kentucky. Now, here's the thing. With the SALT credit that you get on your taxes, any state and local property tax that you pay your state every year, you before 2017, you could claim all of it on your federal taxes. When this Tax Cuts and Job Act got created in 2017, after Trump took office the year after, the SALT cap went from being able to claim it all to only being able to claim 10,000 max. Now let's think about the states that I said pay the most in taxes. State taxes. New York, California, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. All blue states, all vehemently oppose Donald Trump, all liberal. Let's put the story together. Now let's think about this. If you now have millionaires who live in these places who can no longer get that state tax absolved or offset in their federal tax income refund or whatever, what they're going to do? They're going to fucking leave. What has been happening since Trump took office the first time? You've seen a boom in Austin, Texas. People are moving from New York and New Jersey during COVID to Florida. Do the math. And what happens when these millionaires and high income earners leave these states? They fall into dilapidation and repair because you have to now, as a state, make up for that lost revenue. So now you have moved all of your millionaires, all of your Hollywood bigwigs to the South, to red states. So when election time comes back again, and they know that this cap, which was set to end in 2025, which if we had a Democratic Congress and a Democratic president, this shit's not going to get renewed. So now that we went down this rabbit hole, you tell me, why do you think these people voted for him? Why do you think Amazon kissed the ring? Why do you think Facebook kissed the ring? Why do you think all these companies kissed the ring? It's always about the money first. They don't give a fuck about DEI. And really, I'm going to be honest with you. When you talk to some of these millionaires, it's not even personal. These people looking at their bottom line, and that's it. They don't care about your food stamps. They don't care about none of that. So guess what? Now let's put it all together. If you're doing these big tax cuts, and the United States has a deficit, by doing this, they have to raise the debt ceiling to about 4.2 trillion, somewhere around there. You still, as a country, got to pay your bills. You're going to have to borrow money. You're going to have to make up for that deficit, right? So if we do all of this, guess where we're going to take that money from? The highest program we spend the money on: Medicaid, food stamps, makes sense now, don't it? It's always about the money. And the excuse was, by doing these tax cuts, when it happened in 2017, the reasoning that the sell for this was, because the corporations don't have to pay as much taxes, they could take that money and invest it in their companies, infrastructure, and better wages for employees. What industry laid off more people and pocketed that money they got during COVID? Businesses moved their factories overseas or to other states, decimating whole economies in certain parts of the country. It sounded nice. The sale was there, but they were never going to spend that money. What happened was people got bigger bonuses. It always comes down to the money. It always comes down to the money. Okay? And when I looked at this and did my research, and thank y'all for rocking with me. When I looked at y'all, it's a lot of y'all on right now. When I did my research and really looked at this, because a lot of times on social media, right? We sit and we like, how could people go for this? How could people stand by this? This is terrible. Why aren't these billionaires making calls? Why aren't these companies standing up? They was never going to do that. They make too much money off of it. Now, what'll happen is after everything crumbles, someone will get to step in and be a savior and give you about 2% maybe of the money that they made. They'll put it into charitable causes. When all of the services that were already in place where you wouldn't have had to do that are decimated and gone. And then we'll look at Jeff Bezos or Zuckerberg and say, oh my God, he voted for Trump, but even he tied. Look at what he's doing. He ain't doing nothing but spending the money that he stole from you, from your Medicaid and Social Security, from the tax cut that he got. But because you so destitute and not educated, you think he doing a great thing, and he's not. He giving you your own money back, and not even all of it, a penny out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Big Beautiful Bill. Now, another thing, Harvard University is the vanguard right now, as it pertains to institutions standing up to Trump. And at this point, he is hitting them. He made it so that they can't. He's trying to make it so they can't have students from other countries. Here's the thing with that. And I was reading an article on Vox, because I love Vox. Okay. And they have a section about international students in here. So they go, and this article is by Kevin Carey. He goes, in recent decades, international enrollment has shaped and in some places transformed higher learning across the country. According to the State Department, the number of annual F1 student visas issued to international students nearly tripled from 216,000 in 2003 to 644,000 in 2015. And while many nations sent more students to America during that time, the story of international college enrollment over the last 2 decades has been dominated by a single country, the People's Republic of China. In 1997, roughly 12,000 F1 visas were issued to Chinese students. This was only a third of the number issued to the 2 biggest student senders that year, South Korea and Japan. Chinese enrollment started to accelerate in the early aughts and then exploded. 114,000 by 2010, 190,000 in 2012, and a peak of 274,000 in 2015. The change was driven by profound social and economic shifts within China. Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution essentially shut down university enrollment for a decade. When it ended in 1976, there was a huge backlog of college students who graduated in the 80s into the economic liberalization of Deng Xiaoping. Many of them prospered and had children, often only one, who came of age in the early 2000s. Attending an American university was a status marker and an opportunity to become a global citizen. At the same time, many colleges were newly hungry for international enrollment. The Great Recession savaged college finances. State governments slashed funding for public universities, while families had less money to pay tuition at private colleges. Public universities offer lower prices to state residents, and private schools typically discount their sticker price tuition by more than 50% through grants and scholarships. But those rules only apply to Americans. Recruiting so called full pay international students became a key strategy for shoring up the bottom line. Colleges weren't always judicious in managing the influx of students from overseas. Purdue University enrolled so many Chinese students so quickly that in 2013, one of them noted that a main benefit of traveling 7,000 miles to West Lafayette, Indiana, was improving his language skills by talking to students from other regions of China. That same year, an administrator at a second-tier private college in Philadelphia told me that the college tried to keep enrollment from any one country below a certain threshold, or else we'd have to build them a student center or something. While federal law prohibits colleges from paying recruiters based on the number of students they sign up, this too only applies within American borders. International students sometimes pay middlemen large sums to help them navigate the huge and very global college landscape. While many are legitimate, some are prone to falsehoods and fraud. At the same time, colleges also use the new influx of students to expand course offerings, build strong connections overseas, and diversify their academic communities. One of the great educational benefits of going to college is learning among people from different experiences and backgrounds. When Trump took office in 2016, F1 visas declined sharply, in part because of an administrative change that allowed Chinese students to receive 5-year visas instead of reapplying every year. But the market itself was also shifting. The Chinese government invested enormous sums to build the capacity of its own national research universities, giving students better options to stay home. Geopolitical tensions were growing, and American voters chose to elect a rabidly xenophobic president in Donald Trump. COVID radically depressed international enrollment in 2020, but even after recovery, Chinese F1 visas in 2023 were only a third of the 2015 peak. Colleges managed by recruiting students from other countries to take their place. India crossed 100,000 student visas for the first time in 2022. At the turn of the century, fewer than 1,000 Vietnamese students study in America. Today, Vietnam is our fourth largest source of international students, more than Japan, Mexico, Germany, or Brazil. Enrollment from Ghana has quintupled in the last 10 years. So let's break this down, people. These international students that you barring was keeping the damn lights on. And let's think about this. All these Chinese students that came and learned at one of the best institutions in the world, they took that shit back home. You think China building them universities, which they building that shit with American knowledge and assets. Kids who understand American culture because they studied here. The best of chemistry labs and biosciences. And you're talking about, oh, well, our kids need to go there. Let's be real, American parents. Not all of you, but some of you. When the teacher at the public school tells you your kid can't keep still or they're causing a ruckus, you're ready to cuss the teacher out. So how the hell you think Timmy gonna have the discipline to make it or get admitted into Harvard? Be real with your goddamn self. They taking our jobs. Yeah, they taking the brain surgeon job, niece. They taking the heart surgeon job. That your child don't even have the damn discipline to do. Y'all running and getting IEPs for every goddamn thing. When the reality is, they need to be fucking disciplined. We done taught all of the world, and them kids went back home. Enrollment from Ghana quintupled in the last 20 years. Africa taking their knowledge back home. I don't know if you saw what Africa looked like lately. Meanwhile, our children are fat, undisciplined, bratty, rude, and can't focus long enough to take a standard state test. They're using ChatGPT to do a damn book report. And you questioning how international students got into Harvard. When a lot of our kids can't even fucking make it in community college. Get the fuck out of here. Sorry for my language. And now, because it's always about the money, this is how to get you. What happens to Harvard if you're having all of these immigration issues? You're now saying that they can't bring international students to their thing, even though the courts are blocking that. They ain't got no money. You taking their federal grants. How they gonna pay? Now you understand why Columbia bent the knee? It's so much bigger, y'all. It's so much bigger. It's so much bigger. If you want to contribute to this research that I'm doing, you can Cash App or Venmo me at DapperDamitis. Super Chat. I want to give a shout out to my Super Chats. Kofi Jamal, April H. I appreciate y'all. Once again, Reality Sisters. When I tell you I was in my bag researching all this today, if you didn't catch the beginning of the live, I invite you to go back and listen to how taxes and this big beautiful bill is going to work. If you follow the money, it will tell you everything you need to know. We following our feelings, we following our morals, and yes, those do matter. But it always comes down to the money. On that note, it's 8:04. NXT is on. I'm ready to watch wrestling and de-stress, debrief from all of this. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you soon. Toodles!